Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris. I wasn't ready for you to say hello there. Suddenly
Yeah,
we're recording.
yes. Sorry, I didn't really give it much, but we'll get into it. Today we are talking about Eileen, the latest film from the director of Lady Macbeth. Do you remember that one? That was directed by
Yes, the
William
first movie I
Oldroyd.
saw Florence Pugh in, I believe.
Yes, and brilliant. I love that film. I really
Yeah,
love
it's a
that
good movie.
film. Then we're going to dive into our BFI Sight and Sound blind spots, where we will be watching Wanda from 1970.
And we don't mean like you'll be watching Wanda with us. I mean, we've already watched Wanda. We're
Yes,
going
I
to tell
meant
you what we thought about watching Wanda, right?
yes. I meant more like reviewed. That's what I meant. Yeah, we're not going to be watching.
I
We've
know, I'm
watched
just
it.
being
We've watched it.
facetious.
You are being very facetious. We've watched it, and then at the end of this podcast, we will reveal the two films that we'll be watching for our Christmas special version of the films that streaming forgot.
It's been so long since we've done that segment that you get a free pass for not saying the title right. It's
I
okay.
know. We haven't done one this year. I think we've been so wrapped up in our BFI Sight and Sound blind spot series that I feel like we've had a good run of we've kind of settled on the format. But in those early days when we were experimenting with different things, that was one that I really enjoyed doing, despite some of the films I had to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a good sort of, just to put it plainly, laugh. I think we've been quite not bogged down, but we've been, very locked in and committed to talking BFI for quite a long time. Probably nearly a year now. We've been doing this
Mm.
list, and yeah, there's naturally when you're talking about big lofty pieces of art, there's going to be some heavy topics in there, and it's nice to have a little break in here and use Christmas as an excuse to talk kind of crappy movies. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
definitely. I must say, did you think we would have finished the BFI Sight and Sound series by the end of the year? Because part of me thought we would, and I don't know. Now looking
Yeah.
at the list, I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, well, I think that is sort of blind naivete in a
Yeah,
way that kind of contributes to that. I didn't expect like how not taxing in terms of, oh, I found these movies difficult. All of these I found sort of beneficial in a way, or, if not loved them, but there is sort of a taxing element to watching a movie that's so laced with content or with historical meaning behind it. And also you got all the year's releases. We're catching up with things generally. We do, this show is a hybrid. We talk about new releases and old in every
yeah,
episode. Very rarely do we commit to one or the other. So I think we're doing pretty well. We get round movies, I think. More than
yes,
the
yeah,
average
yeah.
moviegoer, I think.
Do you know what? I'm actually seeing one of the Sight and Sound blind spots that we have spoken about again this
I
weekend
know.
in the cinema. I am off to see the Red Shoes at the Watershed.
When are you going to see that? I think isn't the last day is like they're ending the season in like mid this week or something.
Oh, I'm seeing it Saturday, so I guess they're not ending it that
Oh, maybe
soon.
not. Maybe
I
that's
think
just where
they've
I
got a
live.
few more Powell and Pressburger films coming up throughout the final weekends of December. But yeah, the one I'm off to see is the Red Shoes because I absolutely adored that film, and
Uh,
it's like a nice matinee showing post lunch. And I thought, watch an old movie, maybe afterwards head down to the Christmas markets, and start to feel a bit festive.
it's so cool. Like I think I only really started my Paul and Pressburger journey with yourself because of the BFI list. I had seen the Red Shoes years ago, really loved it. Gone to appreciate it even more this time, revisiting with
Mm.
you and talking to you about its themes. And yeah, it's just so cool that listening to other podcasts and people are talking about Paul and Pressburger. You've never known those names before. And it seems like the BFI are really doing a great job at really sort of, shining a light on these two filmmakers that are so, a lot of British cinema has to thank them for. I think
Yes.
it's a shame that it's got to this point for them to become a household name for the film goer. So yeah, this it's so awesome that we get to go out and support it. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go and see it on the big screen. I just won't find the time. But yeah, please tell me what that's like when you come back. I bet it's going to be cool.
Yeah, no, I honestly can't wait. I think it's gonna be so good. And yeah, I was one of those people who didn't know who Helen Pressburger was. I had seen Peeping Tom, but like didn't really kind of look any
Sure.
further into the director of that. I think that was that Powell or was it Pressburger? One of them solo.
That was Pyle when he went off by himself. Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, no, I was very surprised because we've seen two of their films now on from the list, and both are easily easy 5-star films for me, and potentially some of my favorites of all time. After one viewing, which is very
yeah.
rare, and now I'm on to the second, which I'm sure will solidify that fact.
See that's the reason why a big commitment like this is worth it. It really just starts off these different facets, these different lanes that we can now pursue post doing this miniseries. So, yeah, I think it was a good thing for me personally. On a selfish level, I'm glad I went on this journey, and I'm sure you feel the same.
Yep, yep. So hopefully we'll finish that mid next year. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, could you imagine, dude, if they put like the red shoes on an IMAX screen, like what that would look like if they had managed to blow that up and make it look nice? How amazing an experience that would be!
I'm just
Oh,
thinking of that like 15-minute ballet segment in the middle that
oh
just
my
like.
goodness, yeah. Give me that over Pandora any day. I'm sorry, I like Pandora, but not
Well,
as much.
speaking of new films that harken back to the past and are influenced by a certain
Oh,
style and
nice
genre.
segue.
Thank you. Thank you. I was thinking about that for a minute. Shall we go into our new release and talk about Eileen?
Sure, sure. This is a film that kind of I had heard about. It did the rounds at Sundance really early in the year, and I think it did pretty well from what I heard. The critics seemed to quite like it generally. It has Thomasin McKenzie and Anne Hathaway as your two leading actors, so that is kind of a ticket submission worthy of itself. You feel like I want to see what those two actors on the screen would do together. I'm a big fan of both of them,
Mm.
and yeah, this is based off a novel as well, isn't it? It only
Yes.
came out a few years ago, and I think the writer co-wrote the screenplay on this too, if I'm
Oh,
not mistaken.
interesting. Okay. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know that. Didn't delve deep into the writers for some reason.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is sort of a love letter. I think stylistically, it opens up in a very like 70s centric sort of style of filmmaking. The font is very 70s of that era, and a kind of a callback to that sort of almost looks like a Starsky and Hutch movie at the start of it, or like a pulpy crime novel,
Mm.
and that's kind of what the movie's kind of trying to evoke as a sort of throwback to the 100-page paperback thriller mysteries, um, and I think it kind of does that successfully, but it doesn't feel like more than that. It feels like an exercise that kind of goes nowhere. It's the story centers around it's 1960s in Massachusetts. It centers around an unhappy prison secretary, who is played by Thomasin McKenzie, who is the titular Eileen, who is sort of interested and obsessed by a new co-worker who's played by Anne Hathaway, who comes from Harvard. She kind of comes into this really male-dominated um, juvenile center that they work in, and kind of shakes up the status quo. She's this beautiful blonde. She's very intelligent. She has this confidence and suave about her,
Different
and
methods as well. Like, a lot of the guards are kind of put off by her. Kind of more, kind of. She's definitely caring and more willing to kind of get her hands dirty,
yes,
in order to kind of understand um the
yeah, she's a
prisoners.
psychiatrist that actually cares about people, which is, in this sort of time period, the way this genre plays out, we're used to seeing kind of villains in this sort of role.
Yep.
So, yeah, and also Eileen, it's hinted at the very beginning of the film and throughout that she is sort of sexually repressed. There's hints of her being bisexual as she kind of fantasizes about men and women in the workplace, Anne Hathaway included. So it starts this kind of interesting journey. She has this alcoholic father who is widowed. He's
It used to
played
be a
by Shea
big part of
Wiggum.
the. Yeah, it used to be a big part of the police force.
Yes,
Which
people
is like
refer to him
obviously,
as Chief. Yeah,
Yeah, people know her. They're like, "You're the daughter of the chief
yeah.
of police and stuff like that." So yeah,
But there's good ambiguity about how he got to this point of time. I think that's kind of an interesting thing about that character. Everybody in the street and the town seems to know who he is, even though he's been tucked away, kind of an agoraphobe at this point, and just drinks himself. Like Eileen has to go to the shop and buy him like 2 bottles of liquor on the way home every single day, and yeah, he's not a great father. He's pretty abusive.
he's not very
Um,
nice
He's
to
not a very
her.
nice guy. Shea
No.
Wiggum's really good at that in general.
Yeah, I feel like it is a character we've seen Shea Wiggum play before.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I was getting real Boardwalk Empire vibes from him again
Yes,
here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I loved him in Mission Impossible though this year. He is a good character actor, and I like to see
Yeah,
him when he turns up. But yeah, there's this whole dynamic. There's a hint of a devious nature to Eileen. There's this curiosity um, that she sort of sees the world in different ways. There's this repression inside of her that she needs to unleash, and she's in this, you know, town that borders Boston that literally nothing's going on. There's nobody her age group. She never really moved on to kind of form a career. She's been stuck to look after her father, and
yeah.
yeah, the
Well, her
plot.
sister is clearly, who isn't in the picture,
Mhm.
but is clearly heralded as, the girl who got away, got the husband, got the kids, and no longer speaks to her or her
Yeah,
father. Has gotten out of that kind of place.
yeah. It feels like Eileen's at a dead end, and
And she very much empathizes with the prisoners who have killed their dads.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
She says it quite a lot. So, oh yeah, I can understand that. You're like, okay, don't say
yeah,
that out loud.
yeah. I mean, translate this to someone who's listening to the podcast. He hasn't seen the movie. Like, he is not good. He is very abusive, and he gives her little opportunity to do anything if she even wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of resentment built up here. And there are these fantasy sequences that are actually genuine jump scares in the movie.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
I jumped like 3 times in this movie where her dad has the gun. He still has the gun from when he was a police officer, and she fantasizes about shooting him in the head during these moments of like extreme altercations that they have.
Hmm.
And like the movie is very, very good at hoodwinking you in those moments because
Absolutely.
every time I thought that was real. Yeah, so but from there on, I kind of go into issue of the movie. The movie is a lot of surface pleasure for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, well, I say as a bad thing, but the surface pleasures were what I enjoyed most about it. I think beyond that, once it gets into the screenplay, the script, I think suffers a little bit from being a little bit too mundane and on the nose, and it really struggles itself in the writing. It kind of goes nowhere interesting that you haven't seen in a million other movies before.
Yeah.
Um, and once it starts to ramp up and get interesting, it ends. The altercations, the conversations between Anne Hathaway and Thomasin McKenzie in this are probably the highlights of the movie because there's that sort of that deviousness, that's a curiosity that Eileen has, is kind of being seen through the eyes of the only person that's listening to her, and because Anne Hathaway's character is so receptive and to people's feelings, you're seeing everything that she's thinking about this character in her eyes. When she's looking at Eileen, she's thinking of admiration, envy, fear. There's she sees all of that within Eileen, and those are the best parts of the movie for me.
Yeah. And she knows exactly, because she's a psychiatrist, I think it's pretty much implied that she knows exactly how to work Eileen as well
Mm-hmm.
for her benefit. But yeah, I mean, for me, the MVP of this whole film was Anne Hathaway. I was
100%.
absolutely, enthralled every time she was on screen. I thought she was absolutely brilliant. And Anne Hathaway is one of those actresses who I don't know if she's really ever done that with me before. I've never thought she gives a bad performance, but she's never particularly blown me away either in anything I've seen. I don't
I
think. Like,
mean,
I can't
you
think.
didn't sob like a kid when you saw I dreamed I dreamed a dream.
I've never
No,
seen Les Mis, so maybe that's the one I missed.
you're not missing much.
But yeah, so I was particularly blown away by her in this film. I thought she was absolutely fantastic. And there is a chunk of the film where she kind of disappears, and obviously Eileen is quite sad by this as
Mm.
well, that she's just like disappeared, because that's the kind of woman she is. She's, she does whatever she wants when she wants, kind of thing. And for that period of time, I guess maybe I was in the headspace of Eileen, of like, I just want her to come back. I was
Yeah.
like, this film is not
Yeah.
interesting without her in it. But yeah, there was
That's a
so
good
much of
thing.
this film that kind of, had elements of things that I love, elements of other films that I love, and the style and all this kind of stuff. But I think you're right. It was all very surface level, and it just needed to get going. I think you're right. As soon as it gets going, it ends. And I don't know. Do you want to spoil the twist? Are we spoiling the
I
twist?
think we've talked about 70% of the film so far, so
Cool.
we've
Well,
already spoiled it.
skip 5-10 minutes if you don't want to know the twist. But the twist in the film, where we find out that Anne Hathaway has locked up one of the prisoner's mums, because she was just as abusive as the father that he killed. That was an absolute shocker to me, and honestly gave me goosebumps when
Hmm.
that happened, because it comes out of nowhere almost. Because you
It
think
does.
it's an element, you think this is a scene where Eileen, and I keep forgetting the name of Anne Hathaway's character. That's really bad, isn't it? Do you remember her name?
Oh, I gotta look it up, or else we're just gonna keep saying Anne Hathaway and her character.
Yeah, we
Rebecca.
never called Thomas and Mackenzie Thomas and Mackenzie. Rebecca, her name's
Rebecca.
Rebecca. So Eileen and Rebecca, you think like they're finally gonna consummate some kind of relationship that's kind of been boiling under the surface, but instead it twists into this crime film, and
Hmm.
honestly gave me goosebumps, because it was quite a shocking moment. Um, and all I could think about, because I looked at my watch to see where we are in the film, and it's a short film, it's only an hour and a half, and we were like 20 minutes from the end, or
Hmm.
half an hour from the end. And all I could think was, I wish this had happened earlier. This would be
Yeah.
so much more interesting if this happened half an hour earlier. I think I would have been, because I wouldn't say I was like falling asleep or anything like that, but I was definitely
It was a very
I was just,
relaxing sort of, yeah,
yeah,
in
I
a
was just
weird way. You were
a
sort of
little zoned out. I wasn't fully in.
Mhm.
I was like, this is fine. I've seen some of these beats before,
It takes a
you
while to
know.
get going.
Yeah, and Thomasin McKenzie as Eileen, like
Yeah.
she's a good actress, but like her character isn't a particularly warm one. So it's not exactly like I was rooting for this character either, because she is a bit of a mess. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. I think this is a Thomas and Mackenzie thing in general. I really do. I'm also a fan, but I always struggle to kind of warm up to her accents in general. I don't think that's her strength as an actor. And I know you're doing such a strong, when you're doing these Boston accents and they're really specific, right? It took me a little while to get into that a little bit.
yeah, she does have a particular kind of very soft,
Tone, yeah.
high pitched voice. Which and I always forget that like she's in her 20s. I think she's a lot younger. So when some of
I
those
know, right?
earlier scenes, which are quite sexual, happened, I was like, she old enough? Is she old enough to be
Yeah.
doing this?
I mean, I think Anne Hathaway, in a way, she's perfect casting because Rebecca, when they're talking outside of the bar, her and Rebecca, she does point out that her features. She makes a point of her saying like how plain her face is, but how it seems to have so much more wisdom and so much more life within it too. It has like 1,000 stories to tell, and that's like
Mm,
a really perfect summation of Thomas McKenzie as an actor. I think the better moments of the movie for me actually were, like I said, I would talk about the surface pleasures, but those needle drops that are thrown in the movie, I actually quite enjoyed because I'm a sucker for that sort of 60s girl grip sort of sound. But
mhm,
the dance sequence that they kind of have in the bar, these moments where the camera is usually used to tell the story and lingers on Eileen's face, you get those curious moments in her face, those sort of notions of deviousness.
mhm.
That's where the movie kind of, I was under a spell temporarily. Is when the script wasn't doing the work, as when the cinematography was, and the lighting is very sort of seductive too. And I had this whole sort of
Yeah,
spell during those moments that I liked.
yeah.
Stuck
And I
stuck
think
with me the most.
the film kind of marketed itself as a Hitchcockian thriller, and
Hmm.
the age difference between the two definitely works for an older film. You
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
have a much
sure.
older guy than a girl, but you're right in those scenes in particular. You are swept up in it very much,
Yeah,
and
the
you kind of
score is very good too.
you believe the relationship, even though I was always slightly wondering if Anne Hathaway was kind of, bringing her along for the ride kind of thing, because
Well, that's a strength
she
of the
is this woman
isn't
who
it?
does what she wants. That's like that was her whole thing.
Mm,
She's this headstrong woman. She's a modern woman in an oldie timey world, and the psychiatrist nature of it all. I thought, is she playing a game here? And I think by the end of the film, I don't think she's fully playing a game, but
yeah,
um because I don't think she fully understands just how dark Eileen
sure.
is prepared to go. And basically, but then I guess she does use her to kind of get away from the whole thing.
Hmm. I didn't think about it until you said it earlier on, until the big shocking reveal happens at the end of the movie. You said you kind of almost felt that Eileen could have developed this relationship with Rebecca, and I think that's really interesting. I think that is another strength of the film, that it actually puts you in the headspace of that character, the delusion that this actually could become a potential thing, even though probably in the mind of Rebecca, and I think we see that in Anne Hathaway's face at the end of the film, that was never a possibility.
Do you think though, because she was kind of wooing her in the in the scene where she's eating cheese, the cheese eating scene.
Well, because she's
She is
about to
saying, "I'm
drop the
not
bomb on
like,"
her.
she does practically come out to her and then says like, "I think you might feel the same way too." Like, so her intention there isn't only to get her to
Hmm.
witness the mum kind of.
But maybe she's talking about something completely different, and we're so in the headspace of Eileen that we interpret that a different way.
But what could it have been, Chris?
Could have you? There's a lot of things in this movie that don't actually happen.
Well, yes, because that is one of the things you said about the gunshots.
Hmm.
Multiple times throughout the film, we have these kind of fantasy elements. I think it works and it doesn't work in the favor of the final twist where she does shoot her, the mum. Um, Did you for a moment wonder if it was real?
Of course, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I think
In
the
a good
movie
way
had
or a
trained
bad
us at
way?
that
I
point,
don't
didn't it?
know. I couldn't tell if I liked that or
For a
not.
split second, and then like once I saw the reaction from Rebecca, that kind of you couldn't go back after that.
Yeah, yeah. I still think I still think she was kind of wooing her. Oh, I don't know.
It's
Now you've
hard.
made me question the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's the problem with the film. I think that it feels a bit muddled. It's overly simple, though. I think by the end of the thing, where the credits draw, you feel a little bit like, I am going to forget this in 5 minutes. I'm going to walk out.
Yeah,
I mean, me and Lauren walked out the cinema, and we were like, yeah, that was kind of the least we'd said about a film coming out of it in a long time. It neither enraged me or excited me. It was just like, I'm sort of glad I saw that.
yeah.
And that was kind of it,
There were two old ladies in front of me who seemed quite up on the film because they asked me what I thought about it as we left, which I thought was very sweet of them.
That's never
Uh,
happened to me. I want that to happen to me.
It was really nice. I like these two old ladies, and they were like, I thought this was brilliant. And they were like, what do you think? And I didn't want to say like it was
Yeah.
all right. I was like, yeah, that was good, that was good. But in my head, I was like, it was all right. I'm not sure. I liked elements. I
Oh,
liked a lot
no.
of elements, but I don't think it all fully worked together.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
but
they
yeah.
weren't prepared to take that conversation any further.
Well, I
And then they
wasn't
just,
sure. I was like, I don't know you, but you seem really up on the film, and I don't want to be the guy who puts a dampener on it.
you
You
should
know,
have just
you
been like, that was fucking shit, man. That was rubbish, bro.
what do you want to be, stupid old lady? They did cackle quite a lot at one of the masturbation scenes, which I thought was quite funny.
Ugh, wow. I mean, have they
That's going to be you and me in the future.
oh,
Just two old men,
probably.
lunchtime screening.
I mean, you say masturbate. They are very tame in this
They are
movie when
very
they
tame.
happen, and they're more suggestive. Imagine if you were caught on that screen with those two ladies and you watched The Favorite. I mean, that would have been completely like they would have been dead by the end of that movie.
I don't know. Made me laugh though. But yeah, so yeah,
But
Eileen.
it's worth seeing. I don't think there's much more to talk about. I'm surprised we've got to this point and talk so much about it, because it is very, very lean and it's over before it even kind of begins. I think that's kind of it by the end of it. I think once it ramps up, it's actually closing the curtains at the same time. So
Yeah.
yeah, be prepared for that if you're going to catch up with this one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. The ending of Eileen is almost like the beginning of our
It's like
BFI blind spot movie.
it's like a DC origin story for a serial killer that's going to come.
Oh, brilliant. Shall we shall we get into our BFI blind spot of the week?
Sure.
As you may or may not know, Kris and I are not in the same room currently. So when we wanted to start a podcast together, we needed a platform that was able to record high quality audio online and separately, and also gave us the illusion that we may even be in a studio together.
I don't remember exactly how we came across Zencaster, but we've been using it since day one, and has never let us down. It's easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. You log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you've ever thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencaster's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations.
Zencaster is one of the greatest tools used at the film angle, and that's why we wanted to share the love with you.
So go to zencaster.com/pricing and use our code TheFilmAngle, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences that we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Back to the show.
So, our blind spot this week from the BFI Sight and Sound Greatest Films of All Time list is...
Take a breath.
I know, that was a breath, wasn't it? Is the 1970 film Wanda, directed and lead star, or lead starring...
And
I'm not
written.
sure. And written. Not that there's much.
Sort of.
Sort of written, very improvised, by Barbara Loden.
Yeah, and I believe this is the only film she ever sort of directed and wrote. I think this is like her one and done.
Yes. So she was an actress in her own right prior to this.
Yes, in the theater as well.
And yeah, she did a lot. I think she did a lot more theatre work than she did film work. But did film and TV work in the 60s and 70s, I think, mainly. Well, actually, I say mainly, she died only 10 years after this film, unfortunately.
Yes, breast cancer, I believe she passed away from, didn't she?
Unfortunately so, yeah. But yeah, I think she might have done a couple of short films after this, but in terms of an actual feature film, this is the only one, which is a shame, really, if you think about it, to be this high up on the Sight and Sound Greatest Films of All Time list and only able to get one feature film under your belt. And I don't imagine it's of her own doing. It's probably more of the times, and this was a very much an independent film in a time when independent cinema was becoming more of a thing. This was the Hollywood was on a downward trajectory, and films like this with small budgets were the things that were kind of bringing life back to the cinema in the 70s. Yeah, but we should probably talk about what it's about, really. It's set in a very kind of rural America. You might recognize it, Kris. It's set in Scranton.
Oh, yes, Michael Scott territory, yeah.
Michael Scott territory. And it follows Wanda, who, after a string of kind of bad and potentially abusive relationships, just kind of wanders off. Wanda does a Wanda, and
very good.
Thank you. I came up with that one on the fly.
I can tell.
You could tell. And ends up, in trying to find just like what her life should be and what she should do. Ends up in the kind of mix with a criminal on the run, and ends up kind of getting involved in that life somewhat.
Yeah.
Before I guess moving on to the next thing by the end of the film.
I wouldn't even say that Wanda's out there searching for something. This isn't like that kind of movie. This is way more of a character study of somebody who is not an agent in their own life. That really just is happy to mosey along, both because of own personal choices, but also the choices that society has kind of put on her on an early stage in life. She's kind of started, well, the movie suggests that she's kind of started life on the down path. And
Yeah,
this movie is more an exploration of people who start off in a rut and are unable to have the tool set to get out of that rut. That's kind
absolutely.
of how I feel about this movie.
And she herself is somebody who is quite, um, I don't know how to explain it, but she's happy to go with the flow in a sense. She wants better, but she doesn't really know, like I said, how to get it. But she's not particularly strong-minded in any way.
She's
She just kind of goes with it. Like, she has 2 kids with her former
mhm.
husband. She's just, and like the
She's
court
very
is there
apathetic
ready.
too.
Yeah, it's very apathetic, and the court is like, well, do you want any kind of, do you want to fight for custody of your kids? And she's very much like, no, just they'll be better with him,
Yeah,
and then just
they'll be
kind of
better
walks
off with
out the
him.
court.
Yeah,
See you later. So she's a really interesting character. She's like almost just like a canvas ready to be painted on, which I guess is kind of intriguing, and that's kind of where the work goes. It almost, you can't imagine there was almost a script for this. It almost feels documentary style at times, and they use a lot
hmm
of kind of non-actors and local people to make the film.
oh yeah, the boss at the at the factory is definitely a non-actor at the
Yeah,
start of the movie.
there's definitely a few, isn't there? There's definitely a few. But yeah, so yeah, she just kind of, it writes itself in a way. You could almost see, like, if Andrew Arnold was a director in the 70s, you could almost see this being an Andrew Arnold film.
I
I
get
feel
you.
like she employs some of the same kind of techniques and tactics that Wanda does.
I get you. This feels like that, but this is so I can't get over in my mind how brave it was to probably make a film like this in 1970. This is like really putting yourself out there. And I haven't really read much discussion about the film, but I did before watching it see some critic reviews online, just kind of warming up before seeing it. And a lot of critics at the time, when it was like premiering in Venice, were saying that they could not get on board with the movie because she was so apathetic that they felt no sort of likable quality about Wanda,
Mm,
and that's like, we're living in a time period with 1970 where our female characters do not usually look like this at all. I actually think a lot of, even in 2023, we don't see many female characters like this. This seems really singular. I can't remember seeing a character that was so so apathetic that you actually made you more interested to learn more about why is somebody in that state, and then really paints the picture and makes you as the viewer kind of fill in all the gaps that what would have got a person like this to. I do think it's worth saying, there's no beating around the bush. She isn't intelligent. She isn't smart at catching on to things, and I think that's why she is so easily. She is a bag in the wind. Anybody that comes her way will be able to do whatever they like with her, and that's what happens in this movie. She is
mm,
so subjected to naivety and being, subjected to whatever a person wants to put her free. This guy that picks her up unwittingly, it becomes a sort of odd couple movie at the beginning. There are hints of humor at his sort of his angst and annoyance of her. Like, he finds her really, really annoying. But then this turns into abuse. Like, he can see that, oh right, he picks up really quickly that she's not the smartest.
yeah.
And he is able to use that sexually. He orders her to leave the apartment to get burgers and slaps her when she gets the order wrong. It's pretty horrible stuff. And what was even more horrible wasn't to see like Wanda recoil whenever she gets slapped. It was more like, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, like, or what did you do that for? It was nothing to her. Like, her biggest reaction is like, ouch, that hurt. Like, I know she's seen
Yeah,
this a
it's
million
like,
times
yeah, I
before.
think that's it. She's been there, done that. And I think it's interesting as well, like, when she knows she needs money and somebody buys her a drink at the bar, and like the next shot is, she's waking up in a bed next to them. Like, she knows how to
Mhm.
work the men to get the money, despite it having to be, having to sell yourself essentially for that. So like, there's some street smart there, but yeah, not enough to get you out of a position.
Yeah,
which
and it's
is
not till the end of the film that it kind of does catch up on her. You know,
mm,
we get another rendezvous. She ditches the well, she has to ditch the
yeah.
guy
Well,
because
he's
he gets
dead.
gunned down. He's dead. He gets gunned down in the bank. Um, yeah, he tries to incorporate her in a heist, and again, she's willing to kind of go along with it,
Mm.
because this is just some weird chapter in her life that she's kind of okay. We're here now. There's no going back. By the end of the movie, it's another rendezvous. This guy comes on to her and starts. It's he gets quite rapey, to say
Yep,
the least.
sexually assaults her for
That's
sure.
exactly what happens, and it's like everything's kind of boiled up. Like it's this realization moment that, like, okay, right, where the fuck am I going? I've had enough
Yeah,
here.
like I can't do this again. Right? She's
Yes,
like, I've just
yes,
been through all this. I can't bloody do this again.
yeah, and she runs for the trees. But yeah, I just thought it was really fascinating. I think it's so incredibly, like I said, to use the word again, brave for the time to depict a woman in this sort of realistic circumstance, and it's a real poke and prod at the social system in America
Yeah.
that has people who are, impoverished, that are sort of at the beck and call of people around them. So somebody who maybe is not, intellectually privileged. If you start off at the bottom of the tier of the ladder, where is there else for you to go? It's an expectation for that type of woman to get married, to be the beckon and call of any man around her, and how that numbs the mind in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I read that Barbara Loden kind of was interested in making this film after seeing a news story about a very kind of similar situation, and the woman who was kind of somewhat going along with a particular heist got imprisoned, and she ended up thanking the judge for putting her in jail.
Yeah, she
Like that's how
recognized the problem.
desperate she needed to like just get off the streets, I guess.
Mm. It's almost like a form of addiction in a way, isn't it? You kind of
Mm,
compare her relationships to an alcohol dependency. It feels like that.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I think it's fascinating. I think Barbara as well was interested because not only that story, but she recognized some of those character traits within Wanda and herself, that aimlessness she had for a large portion of her life, she put
yeah,
into this character. So I think the strength of this film completely is not just this look of a character, I've said that many times, but the way she performs it. This is a kind of a performance of the ages in a way, because it's so improvised. The way she just kind of goes through this movie and plays off people around her in such a realistic way that you just can't predict what she's going to do next. It really does feel like a documentary in that style.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I had never like. Here's the thing. I think the
Yeah.
poster for this film is more iconic than the film itself, because I'd seen this poster before, but I'd never really knew the film, and I didn't really know anything about the film.
Hmm.
Had you heard anything
I'm
prior to
exactly the
watching it?
same.
Yeah,
I've seen this poster
yeah,
for years, and I just did not know what movie. I couldn't even tell you what the title of the film was called. I just knew that image.
yeah. Interesting, very interesting. Because like, I guess cinematography wise, it is it's fine. I don't think it was anything mind blowing. Yeah, I think like you said, it's very documentary style, so it's kind of
I
got
think it
that going
relies
for
on
it.
daytime. Whenever it goes to night lighting, it looks very dark and it's kind of hard to see at times. I think it really, but during the daytime scenes, anytime it goes outside, it's beautiful primary
Yeah,
colors, and it has this beautiful sort of pastel kind of touch to it. And obviously having that restored 70s green on it and that kitchen sink
yeah.
feeling is really nice to watch from a modern eye.
The one thing I couldn't find out, and if anybody has any information, please let me know. I
Hmm.
wanted to know why Gucci provided the
I saw that
financing
at the
for
opening
the.
credits too.
Yeah, and I was trying to find out online. I couldn't find anything. And I'm really intrigued as to why Gucci as a company financed the restoration for this film.
Yes, because this movie is not at all glamorous. there's
No.
no there's no like outstanding costumes. Like Wanda until towards the end of the film is wearing the exact same daily house garment through the whole film. So it's not it's interesting.
Yeah, I guess maybe something to do with the clothes that they were sewing in the.
Or maybe there's a scene. No. No,
There's a
I'm
scene when
think
they look at she looks at dresses in a store.
yes.
Would you?
On the dressing, and it was in their dressing window.
Yeah, like an
Loads of mannequins.
aspiration for.
But they didn't look very
that's-
Gucci. They looked very like department store type clothes. Anyway,
Mm,
I mean, I'm not an expert in Gucci. I don't know what they were selling in the
no,
1970s.
the only stuff I know about Gucci is the
Is Lady
Ridley
Gaga
Scott
and Jared.
Jared Leto.
Yeah,
and
Jared
Adam
Leto, that's
Driver.
all
And
I
Adam
know.
Driver.
Yeah, I know, but like, who cares about that when you got Jared Leto in a bodysuit?
I love Adam Driver.
I haven't seen House of Gucci.
Have you
That
not?
movie slipped me by.
Really?
That's not. I watched. There's 2 Scott movies came out that year. I only watched one of them.
Which was the other one?
The Last Duel. They came out like within a month of each
yes.
other, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
He was busy.
Did I like House of Gucci? I don't think I did.
Is it really long? It's like nearly 3 hours, right?
It's quite a long one, yeah. But I mean, you get to see Adam Driver.
People say it's fun.
I watched it for Adam Driver, and it was definitely Lady Gaga hoping she would get an Oscar for that. I felt kind of sad when she didn't even get a nomination, but also like the film wasn't great, so
Yeah. I don't know. I saw her performance in like clips, and it looked very much like she was on the set of Everybody Loves Raymond. Everybody seems like
Do you
they're
know
on the
what?
set.
Everybody feels
It's
like
cranked
they're
up to 11.
everybody feels like they're on a different type of film. Every single person has different
Is
energy.
Jeremy Irons in that too? I heard he was
Yes.
good.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's good depending on what
They're in a different
you think
genre.
the film is. Yeah, but yeah,
I
no,
gotta watch that.
Yeah, tangented now, so I assume that means we're probably done with Wanda for now.
Yeah. I feel like talking to you, perhaps I'm overpraising it, but because I was so sort of infatuated by how I'd never seen a character represented in a film like this before, I think
Yeah.
it's significant enough to be, worthy of talking about it on the list. I can see why it's here.
Yeah, I am surprised it's this high up, but I appreciate and understand the kind of, it's one of the early American independent films, and is iconic in some ways. So yeah, I don't think I was bowled over by it at all, but I did enjoy watching it. If enjoying that kind of grimy film is a thing, I like the experience.
Well, there you have it. There's Wanda, and you can catch that currently on Alex.
I think the full film's on YouTube if you want.
There's a lot of Criterion films in general on YouTube
Yeah.
these days.
I'm not sure how legal that is, but
I
the
don't know,
whole
and they're all
film's
like
on
really,
YouTube.
and they're all like on 1080p with no adverts for some
Yeah.
reason. So yeah,
Yeah, this one is not on the BFI player yet, or at the time of recording, so you might have to seek it out in other ways.
Alex, can I mention something quickly before we go on and talk about our Christmas special that we're going to be
Yeah.
talking about next week? I did get the chance to catch up on opening night to see Wonka, the Paul King film starring Timothée Chalamet.
God, you went to see Wonka. I
Mhm.
completely forgot.
Are
Yeah,
you
do you know
planning
what?
to see it?
I am, because I didn't even ask you about this pre-podcast, and sometimes we have a little chat pre-podcast. Yeah, no, I really want to know your thoughts, actually.
Not to be like me and vanity here, but what would you expect my reaction coming out of that sort of film to be?
I know what you're like, and I feel like probably more positive. Yeah, I could see you being a Wonka guy.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a Wonka guy.
See you being Team Willy.
Yeah, I wasn't all about the Willy this time. This Willy was a little wonky.
A wonky Willy.
Yeah. Like I love the Paddington movies. I think everybody on the planet seems to at least like them, apart from that one critic that famously took the Rotten Tomatoes score from 100 to 99.
Yeah, Paddington 2 is great. I don't remember Paddington 1 being like as amazing. I remember
Paddington 1
liking
being solid.
it.
Yeah.
But Paddington 2 is great.
Yeah. and it's so sweet. It's very visually creative. It features an insane performance from Hugh Grant. He started his new like sassy bitch era from this. um,
Yeah,
um,
what is with him in interviews at the moment? He's so, I don't know. He's turning into like a grumpy old man.
I don't know if it's like I don't even know if it's true or if it's just shtick or like it's part of the persona. I don't even know at this point. Um, it is funny though. I
Uh,
saw it was an interview for Dungeons and Dragons, which I loved him in as well earlier this year. They were doing like a round discussion with all the actors, and they said, "Had you guys ever played Dungeons and Dragons before?" And he said, "I've been a dungeon master before."
well, I,
Like,
I saw an interview for him for Willy Wonka. They said, "Did you enjoy playing an Oompa Loompa?" And he was like, "No, I absolutely hated it. It was like all this makeup and all this thing, and in the end, they only use your head." And they said, "Oh, but
true.
was it all worth it?" And he goes, "I don't
Not
think so."
really.
He said, "I don't think so." I was like, "Dude,
oh, oh, great. I mean, but that's so good. I mean, like that
is
interview otherwise would have faded into obscurity.
it?"
What was it? The Oscars last year. They somebody interviewed
Oh, it
him
was
on the
very
red
awkward,
carpet.
wasn't it? Yeah, there was
Yeah,
really
asked him
awkward.
about how was it like working with Ryan Johnson on Glass Onion, and he was like, "Uh, all right, I suppose I was only in it for 2 seconds."
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he does come. Yeah, borderline rude at times.
Yeah, I'm not sure about his grumpy man era. I never saw that coming from Hugh Grant. Maybe I didn't know him that well. I don't remember any of his interviews prior to the grumpy one. So
On screen, though, it works. On screen, it's brilliant. He's hit is like it's like John Wick was for Keanu Reeves. He's hit it at the minute.
yeah,
um,
this is his Liam Neeson era of like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna do stupid things from now on.
yeah, the heartthrob Sense and Sensibility '90s era is gone now. Yeah, but Wonka, I was pretty deflated by this.
Ah,
I love musicals.
loser.
Yeah, loser that I get upset about this movie. Like less interested in the Chalamet part of it, whatever. I was
Is he good
hesitant about
though?
that. I don't think it works really.
Yeah, I hear
You
mixed
spend
things.
70% of the movie trying to warm up to what he is trying to do and then you get a little bit comfortable with it by the end, but it just feels a bit flat. I think it's kind of bad. I love Chalamet. I actually do. I love him when he's doing the drifter thing, like Bones and All is really cool. That
Mm,
suits him to a T. But here it is like a little bit like theater school, a little bit. You know what I mean? Like
mm,
somebody trying to be whimsical and like everybody's using that word for every review of this film, so I'm so sorry that I just used it. But he's being over the top in moments, but there's nothing more to it. There's like nothing more like it's all in the face. You know what I mean?
mm,
It's on the face and there's nothing behind that face.
mm,
And it's really hard to get into that period. I think it's really cool. Like the sets are really awesome. It kind of evokes that sort of Dickensian, Victorian Oliver Twist sort of vibe to the city. Some of these big dance numbers, some of the side characters are really, really cool. But yeah, the songs, I can't tell you one of the songs. I can't even remember a lyric from one of them. It's
mm.
very CGI heavy. The um the plot kind of plods along. The Oompa Loompa stuff of Hugh Grant actually isn't funny. I was expecting to actually be the strongest parts of the film. They were kind of flat. You saw the best parts in the trailer, really. And yeah, it's fine. I think it's really cute for little kids. I think kids will love it. Um, but it's just missing that sort of ingenuity that Paddington 2 had or that sort of creative spark. It just feels a little bit like, oh, that's sort of fine. It feels like Greatest Showman era sort of vibe to it. And yeah, it's I felt a bit flat by it by the end.
Okay. It's a shame to hear. I'm hearing mixed things. I'm seeing some people loving it, and then some people very much feeling like yourself. Not hating it, but not feeling the magic
Hmm.
of chocolate.
Yeah, the good bad guys though. There's good bad guys in it.
Who are the bad guys played by?
You got Matt Lucas is in there as one of
Uh,
them. Who's your guy from the main guy in Horrible Histories?
oh,
He's one of
yeah.
them,
He's good.
and I forget he plays Slugworth. He's actually the main bad as well. I haven't seen him in anything else, but those three guys are really fun. They chew up the scenery and they're like proper villains that you can boo and hiss at. It has a very Roald Dahl feeling. It feels more Roald Dahl
Well,
than
that's good.
yeah. It's good. I think kids will love it. You know, your mileage may vary compared to
Yeah.
what you like.
I
But
think it'll be a big hit over Christmas, though.
yeah, absolutely. I think so
it's
too.
gonna
But
be.
they're not really marketing it very heavy. I'm surprised by it. Like you could do so much with this.
Are they not? Yeah, there's not been a chocolate time.
Yeah, if you go see it in 4DX, though, I didn't because I'm just not going to spend that much on Wonka. If you see it in 4DX, they do pump in an exclusive, only one time only, smell of chocolate in the screening.
I don't like the sound.
Probably will smell like weird and dusty and like artificial, but yeah, there's that option if you want to see. You can see this movie in IMAX. Why? Why would you see this in IMAX? But that option's available too. So yeah, obviously it's the big movie of Christmas, so you guys can catch up with it there.
Nice. Well, I don't know if I was gonna go see it in the cinema, and you haven't made me desperate to go see it. So
I never want to influence your opinion, but I don't think you'll love it. I don't
No.
think you will.
I might wait for streaming.
Okay.
Shall we get into our Christmas special?
Yes.
I feel like we need a jingle for this, but maybe we haven't done it enough times.
Like we just insert it in post, don't we?
Yeah.
The films that
streaming forgot.
And then, but we'll do, because it's Christmas, we'll put sleigh bells in, and then Santa going, ho, 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 fade out. Yeah.
Do you know, I
We'll
have
do that.
one day to edit this, so I've got a feeling that's not going to happen.
You can have like one of those like all-nighters, get the Monster Energy drinks out, and just be like a creative madman. Go full Wonka on this.
We'll see how it goes. Anybody listening right now will know how much effort I put into this.
Yeah, like James Wan camera going round you in circles as you're editing like a madman.
Oh god. Yes. So the films that streaming forgot. The rules are for the Christmas special, next week's episode. We had to find I don't know if bad is the word, but a non-conventional Christmas film in the depths of one of our streaming services to make each other watch. And I think we are going to try watch both films, right? Like I'll watch the one that I've chosen for you and you're going to watch the one that's chosen for me. So we can kind of talk in depth about them on the next episode and whether we think that these films are probably neither of us heard of until today are worth their kind of forgotten status on streaming. And
the reason we wanted to do it this way is that if people at home or listening could join in and watch these as well.
We're giving you a week's advance.
And these are on streaming services and you can see them. If you you have to have the subscription, but if you have the subscription, you can watch these for free.
Yes. I'll let you know that mine is also on YouTube.
But everyone can
one
watch
of those
that
ones that's got the full film on YouTube.
That's already giving me a bad indication of where we're going.
But it is on Prime. I found it on a proper stream. If you want to watch it legally.
Mine is also on Prime. Yeah.
Prime. Amazon Prime. A treasure trove of shitty films.
Of horse shit.
The most random films. Chris, did you want to get started? Do you want to give me mine first?
Yeah, go on then. I am giving you. I did a bit of research earlier today, and spent hours actually because I just could not, because there was just so many options. I did not know how many crappy or like insignificant Christmas movies existed. So they all kind of blend into each other. We all got the Hallmark movies. We've got like the couple on the front cover, and it's like, oh, a fucking basket of eggs for Christmas, or like plying the fucking driveway for Christmas. These movies are called, like, they're called all these ridiculous titles. So I wanted to find something a little bit different. I'm really sorry. This title is really problematic, and the actor that stars in it is also very problematic.
Excellent.
This is a different take on Santa Claus, and the movie is called Fat Man.
Fat Man. Wait,
played by Mel Gibson.
This one came out not that long ago, right?
This came out in 2020. It was actually critically reviewed. So there's production behind this movie. So, this isn't like what we did previously where I'm giving you like a straight to home 90s movie that no one's seen and it's going to look like garbage. At least this will look like a movie. Walton Goggins is also in this movie.
Yes, I've just seen.
So it centers around it's a rowdy, unorthodox Santa Claus is fighting to save his declining business. Meanwhile, Billy, a neglected and precocious 12-year-old, hires a hitman to kill Santa after receiving a lump of coal in his stocking. I'm assuming that hitman is Walton Goggins. Yeah, this must be. I don't know. Is 12-year-old hiring an assassin? Is this like the deep web? Are we getting into? I don't know. I don't know why Mel Gibson would pick a project like this. I mean, he's supposed to be, he's spending years getting back on everybody's good side, and trying. I'm not saying he is. He's definitely trying.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie I thought would be interesting. I just wanted to see. This movie looks like it almost takes this ridiculous premise seriously. Like it looks like it's. I'm looking at the stills from this film, and it looks like a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yes, I think I've seen the trailer for this. I remember it coming out. So I'll give it another watch now.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I've lost my influence. Maybe it's time I retired the coat.
You still have it.
Some kids with a deer rifle put 2 holes in the sleigh, one in me. All I have is a loathing for a world that's forgotten.
The United States military would like to procure your services.
This is a one-time deal, gentlemen.
Okay, that's interesting. I thought it was a different type of film. I do remember seeing the trailer for this a long time ago. So I don't really know what the critical kind of response was to this. But yeah, they play it very seriously. It almost feels like an old 80s action film.
IMDb classes this as a dark comedy, action, adventure, comedy again, fantasy, sci-fi, and thriller. This movie is all everything.
Okay. But it's interesting that you've gone down this route. Because originally I thought we might be going down like a Hallmark Christmas route. And I thought that's where you might go for me.
Too predictable.
And I've decided to also not go down the Hallmark Christmas route. Yeah. So I've gone for something maybe slightly similar, but it's genres are recognized as a horror comedy.
Okay.
This one is called Santa's Sleigh, and sleigh is spelled S-L-A-Y.
Dude, no way. I swear. As crazy, out of all the choices in the world, and I'm talking there were thousands of meat for me to choose from, that was the one I almost went with.
No way.
I switched it last second.
You're going to have to go with it either way. This features Bill Goldberg, the wrestler from WWE fame. He stars as Santa Claus, but this time around, Santa is actually a demon who was forced to be nice and has returned to his old ways. It looks like a 80s B movie, despite the fact that it came out in 2005.
It looks
and
older,
is full
right?
of lots of problematic fun. So yeah, you should definitely watch the trailer on that one. It looks absolutely ridiculous.
You can't say that problematic and then say it's fun. It's you're either one way or the other, buddy.
There's a line in the trailer where he says "ho ho hose," and then grabs a woman and kisses her. I don't really know. I think you should watch the trailer now, Chris.
Okay, let's go for it.
Grandpa, I want the truth about Christmas.
If it's the truth you want, then it's the scary truth you're gonna have.
According to the Book of Claus, Santa, Satan's only son, lost a bet and was forced to spread Christmas cheer. But now, all bets are off.
Santa?
Yes, there is a Santa Claus.
Okay, so they are kind of a pairing, I suppose.
They are. Both kind of like these trashy action B-movie vibes, but one takes itself more seriously than the other.
Yeah, one's grey and the other one's like, it came out in 2005, but looks like it came out in 1991.
Yeah, it really does look old from the trailer, doesn't it? Santa's Sleigh.
I have to say, I think you picked well. I think yours looks funnier. yours looks more fun. I saw this one earlier. I said I nearly went for it. I would have been embarrassing. That would have been really embarrassing. What would we have done if we chose to see a movie for each other? I don't know.
Then it would just would have watched one film, or maybe I'd fall back onto one of the others, which were definitely more Hallmark style Christmas films.
Yeah, I actually kind of enjoy those movies. I kind of find a weird appreciation for those now.
I watched I Believe in Santa Claus. It was a Netflix one from 2020, and if I hadn't watched it and already spoken to you about it, then I might have picked that one for you. But there's something so charming about how kind of ridiculous they are sometimes.
Yeah, they're like usually like shot on these fake towns, and like Hallmark have like the biggest budget for like decorations. Every room in everybody's house is like to the nines, and like all this Christmas get up, and all anybody ever talks about in these movies is Christmas. Like everybody has no life apart from Christmas, and like it's so weird, but they're so fun in a way. Like the performances are awful, the dialogue's awful. I like it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So but we've gone down the action movie route.
Yes,
we got some fun Christmas viewings to see.
I think it's a subconscious thing. I think we probably were both scared that we were both like the other person was going to pick a Hallmark movie, and then we'd have two of them to watch, which is too much. So we had the same way of thinking. These look fun. I think these look a lot more fun than any other movie we've kind of covered on this segment. So yeah, I'm glad this isn't homework. I thought there's always the potential it would be.
Yes.
This will be interesting. Maybe the Mel Gibson one might be. Maybe it might be.
We'll find out.
Okay. There you have it. We'll be discussing Santa's Sleigh.
Slay.
Yeah, Sleigh. Yes,
S-L-A-Y. Like Slay Queen.
Exactly, but before Slay Queen was a thing.
Well, like Yas Slay.
Yeah, Santa's Sleigh in here. This is on Prime. You can watch this on Prime Video for free. And you can also watch Fat Man, starring Mel Gibson, on Prime. So, yeah, feel free to watch along. Come back next week. We'll tell you our thoughts on both of these films.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's it for this week's episode of The Film Angle. Remember to rate and review us where you can. Drop us those 5 stars on Apple or Spotify, and follow us on TikTok and Instagram at The Film Angle. But yeah, that has been the episode for this week. My name is Alex.
And I'm Chris. I nearly said Willy Wonka when I was going to introduce my name there.
That's weird.
I can be Willy Wonka.
Okay.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Yas, slay.